Hi, hello everybody. Welcome to Literature Podcast. We met once again, and today we're going to be talking about a very interesting film called Dirty Pretty Things. You're probably wondering how can dirty and pretty be in one title. We're going to get into that when we continue with the podcast. But of course, as usual, my name is Njabulo Lungani, and I'm not alone. I'm with my partner
Lungani Nzimande.
Yeah, man. Let's get right into it, Mr. Nzimande. Mr. Nzimande, take us through the introduction of the movie. What's happening. Tell us, the plot and everything that's happening in the movie before we actually get into the significance of the title.
Okay, Dirty Pretty Things is a British social thriller directed by Steve Ferris and written by Stephen King Knight. It was released in 2002, a time where issues of immigration, globalization, and treatment of undocumented workers becoming a major debate in the United Kingdom and across of Europe. The film is set in modern day London, one of the world's globalized city. During the early 2000s, London was seen as a place of opportunities, but also a city filled with inequality. Many immigrants from Africa, Asia, and East Europeans were arriving to find jobs. However, lots of them had no legal papers,
which is important for you to have.
So they ended up in dangerous jobs, low-paying jobs, like cleaning hotels and driving taxis, or working as domestic helpers. They become what Emily Davis calls the invisible labor that keeps the global economy running, yet they remained unseen and unprotected. Okay, the story follows Onkwe.
Is Onkwe. Which is the protagonist of the film, one of the protagonists.
A Nigerian doctor who failed his country and now works illegally as a hotel receptionist and a cab driver. He shares a small apartment with Sinai. Both characters live in fear of being chased out. Their lives take a dark turn when Ongwa discovers a human heart in the hotel toilet.
Discovering the illegal organ trafficking business run by the hotel manager.
Yes, by Sinka.
Yeah, Sinka. Yes, which is known as Senior Joan. Senior Joan. Yeah.
Okay, the film uses these shocking events to expose the darker side of globalization and migration. It shows how people like Ongwa and Senai cross borders searching for safety, better lives, but end up trapped in a system that exploits their bodies and labor. Their existence is shaped by fear, invisibility, and survival. This connects directly with Emily Davis' 2006 arguments that bodily intimacy serves as a metaphorical language to show how globalization impacts real people. And then the significance.
Yeah, I mean, we have to talk about the significance when it comes to the title because if you can look at it, like you said, that it's a place where it's globalized. At the same time, there's dirty things in there. So what are those things that are dirty, and why is it that the title has dirty and pretty in the same title? Yes.
Okay, the title Dirty Pretty Things captures the film's central message that beauty and corruption exist side by side in a globalized world. It represents how pretty surface of modern cities hides the dirty reality of exploitation beneath. London appears as a beautiful, full of opportunities. The hotels are clean, the buildings are shining, and the guests enjoy comfort. But the people who make this beauty possible are often migrants like Onkwe and Sinai, working long hours in poor condition with no rights or recognition.
Just to add things, we can also add that these are people of color, right? Which I feel like it's really important because Amy Davis also speaks of how the people of color get marginalized in a way. So they're invisible, but the city London on its own and the people that are living there sort of like hegemonize, right? It's like hegemony. They hegemonize over them. but they dominate them to a point where they're invisible and they're not seen, while they're also pushing the operation that runs the country.
Yes, okay, thank you, Njabulo. Their hard work keeps the city pretty, yet their lives are seen as dirty and unwanted by the society. The contrast between beauty and pretty also reflect the global capitalist system. The pretty things like luxurious hotels, wealthy and comfort depends on dirty labors done by invisible workers, as you mentioned. Even the organ trade in the film symbolize how global capitalism can turn human into something that can be bought or sold. The title therefore challenges the audience to look beyond appearance. It forces us to see the people and pain behind the beauty of globalization, as it's happened in the movie. As Emily Davis suggests, film can use body as a metaphor for this globalized tension, showing how effects of migration and inequality are literal written on people's flesh. In Dirty Pretty Things, the title becomes a mirror. It reflects a world that looks
Beautiful from the outside.
Yes, from afar, but up close reveal its dirty. It exploits its fear and its moral decay.
Yeah.
Okay, Njabulo, moving forward to the main part of this podcast.
Yes.
How does Dirty Pretty Things represent their relationship between globalization, borders, and the body? And how does Davis help to interpret this relationship represented in the movie?
So, Nzimande, we need to establish the fact that globalization, right, influences the relationship between the body and, of course, the borders, right? Because everything starts because of globalization. I say that globalization is the mother, to migration, it's the mother to evolution, the mother to colonialism, the mother to imperialism as a whole.
Okay.
But let's look into the true definition of, globalization, and it's defined in many ways. Globalization is the process by which businesses or other organizations develop international influence or start operating on an international scale. So you spoke of how hotels, how London is globalized.
Yes.
That's a representation of globalization in the film, right? Now, if you look into how it links to, the body, or rather borders, right? I say that the representation of globalization is in two ways here. It's in migration and evolution. Evolution, because London is globalized. And then in terms of migration, we see people like Ogwe, people like Senai, who are like immigrants, moving from their own places to come to London to better their lives. You know what I mean? So that's the relationship between borders and globalization. But then we need to get into it and look into, why do they actually move? They move because in their places, maybe it's bad. For instance, in the context of the film, Ogwe is somehow running away from something. You know
Because
what I mean?
they said he killed his wife.
Exactly, so he's running away from something there and is coming here to start a new life and better his own life, right? But because he's an illegal immigrant, he can't perform the profession that he's qualified to do. Like, he can't be a doctor, you know what I mean? He cannot be a doctor. So now he's forced to use his body as service. And that's where the relationship now comes in, right?
Okay.
And this is where Emily talks of how, the bodily intimacy serves as a metaphorical language to show how globalization impacts real people's lives, right? But then, let's look into globalization and how it influences illegal activities such as organ trafficking, prostitution as well. And I think in that way, we're going to then be able to link it to sexual exploitation, and be able also to link it to, self-commodification, right? There's a very important scene, Zimande, where Ogwe, as a doctor, meets this Somalian guy, right? And the Somalian guy is sick because in exchange of a passport, he gave away his kidney. You know what I mean? That's also a very significant scene because it shows the relationship between borders, the body, and globalization. Globalization, how? He wants to move from this place to another. He needs a paper. Then he uses his body as self-commodification, his body as a commodity, and sells a part of his body to get now what? To get a passport. So there's what we call transactional actors. These are hotels. right? These are these nice buildings, these jobs, these are things that are promoting the illegal things that are happening in London, in this beautiful city, right? So these dirty things that are happening, right, is because of the transactional actors. They also fall under the definition of globalization because they promote this whole thing, so things like such as the hotel. In the hotel, we see that prostitution happens because of Juliet, the character Juliet. Organ trafficking is happening because of the manager, Senior Junior, right? Who's the nickname? What's the nickname?
Snenka.
Snenka, yes, Snenka. So these things are happening in this transactional actor, which is the hotel. So the hotel is this place, and Stephens tries to show us, right? And shows the representation of body and globalization through these places, such as the hotel, right? Now, I want us to look into how these three characters, Senai, Okwe, and Juliet, use their own bodies, right, as self-commodification, or to fulfill the purpose of self-commodification, and to show us the relationship between globalization and the body. So, Okwe moves from one place to London, moves to Nigeria. Let's keep it simple. Nigeria. Moves to Nigeria, to London, a globalized place, right? And then gets there and uses his body as service. So he's selling his own body as service. The exhaustion, him being tired of working 3 jobs. He's a hotel receptionist, he works as a driver. At the same time, he's also a doctor, because he's helping people who are having, issues in terms of health, right? And then you look into Senai. Senai is somebody who's working a really underpaid job, right? And I want us to quote this because it's important how Davison helps us analyze this movie. She speaks of how pretty Pretty Things takes up the same motives of body invasion raised by Butler as a mode through which to represent Western-driven economic globalization dependence on underpaid labor by the people of color, primarily from globalized, lands or homelands. If you think about it, Senai is working and is underpaid, and also Okwe, right? But Senai is underpaid, and now she can't go to work because police found out that she works there, right? And she's now forced to perform fellatio to his boss, to her boss rather. And this acts as sexual exploitation because she then quits, right?
Yeah.
But she did perform fellatio, which is sexual exploitation. She's being exploited. Right, and this shows the representation of how a city like London, which is a capitalistic city, ends up influencing things like this, where everybody's on their own and trying to survive. So you need to perform things such as fellatio for you to survive as a woman, which is sad, and you need to also be exploited sexually. You look into Senai, she also wants a passport to go to New York. Now she exchanges her virginity to this hotel manager so that she can get the passport, and you look into Juliet, who's a prostitute. She's also using her body as commodity, as an object. There's what we call male gaze. You look into the what do you call this, the mise en scene, the makeup that she wears, the costume that she wears. It shows you that this person is selling her own body. Sex, of course. She's been exploited sexually, even though she does get the money, but we call it sexual exploitation because she's in a place where she has no choice but to perform. What I mean, those things. And if you can look into the words that she said, Juliet, she says that, to Okwe, that I'm invisible, which goes to the line which is very important, right, in the film, where Okwe speaks of how we are invisible, but we are running the country. And we can link into what Davis said, it's a capitalistic city that is driven by people who we can't see. They're invisible, and they're using their own bodies to make sure that to run this city. You know what I mean? So I think that's the relationship between globalization, them moving to one place, to a global place, a globalized place, and migration as borders, the relationship between globalization and borders, and the body, them using their own body as commodities to make sure that they survive in this globalized place. We thank you.